Hello, everybody, and welcome to Chiquis and Chill. I have some very exciting news to share. So Apple Podcasts has this program called Spotlight. Basically, they pick one podcast they love and highlight it for an entire month so that more people can find it. That's right. Apple's editorial team listens to thousands of podcasts, and they chose Chiquis and Chill. It's the first iHeart podcast to be highlighted, so I'm super excited about this. So if it's your first time listening to the show, welcome, and I'm so happy you're here. And if you've been with me for a while, you know how I feel about you. Los amo. Chiquis and Chill is my comfort zone. I talk about anything and everything. Since I have you here, I wanted to remind you of some of my favorite episodes. We have one on cheating and betrayal, losing my mom Jenny, and a really important one with my fertility doctor on freezing my eggs. And of course, I've had interviews with some special guests, so be sure to check those out too. New episodes drop every Monday, you guys. Rate, subscribe to Chiquis and Chill. Don't forget. Now, let's start the show. I grew up in a household where you didn't talk about sex, about having your period, about being gay. It was just like, no. As I got older in school is when I learned about sex and all this stuff.
Here's a confession of mine that might shock you. I actually have not had sex since 2016.
You're more sensitive. You feel it more, like just other stuff that we can talk about later.
Oh my God. Everybody's going to be talking about this episode. I'm blushing already.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very sexy and mature episode of Chiquis and Chill. I always tell you guys that this podcast is somewhere I can speak about topics that aren't talked about enough in our community. So today we're going to be diving into something pretty taboo, sex and toys. We have a really great guest with us, so I can't wait to get this conversation started. This is Chiquis and Chill. So as promised, we have a really great guest who I'm so excited to talk to today. Sitting here with me is the one and only Perez Hilton. He's an entertainer, an entrepreneur, a father, and podcast host. You guys, welcome, Perez. How are you?
I am well. I was listening and enjoying your episode with Emily Estefan. And I was so excited to be on myself. I will do everything in my power not to take over and start asking you all the questions, which I want to do.
You can ask me whatever you want to, okay? This is a two-way conversation, so you can ask me whatever you want.
Well, I'll let you start, and then we'll go back and forth like a good two-way.
Yeah, a good two-way. Yes, talking about sex. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to start off the conversation. Well, we've been following on social media. We've been following each other for a while. You comment on my stuff. I comment on your stuff. I love your kids, by the way. They're so freaking cute. And I love that now you're incorporating them in the videos that you guys are doing. It's like perfect. I don't know. I just wanted to tell you that first.
Thank you.
Before we move on to, the sex and mature part of this conversation, I do want to talk to you about something. Tell me if I'm wrong, but do you consider yourself, or I'm sure you've heard it before, that you're a pretty controversial person?
Me? Controversial? No. Actually, you know what? I'm going to start off by saying something that has revealed itself to me, and I think it's true, maybe not my brain playing tricks, is that over the last many years, my people, my fellow Latinos have really shown up for me and made me feel like we're family. And I don't get that necessarily from Anglo America. I think you might understand this. I grew up in Miami, the son of Cuban immigrants, and I'm very different and even controversial within my own family. However, I believe, that you still love your family, even if you disagree with them on politics or whatever it might be. So there are a lot of Latinos out there who might think, well, he's controversial. He's muy loco, but, I still kind of like him. And I've actually always been a little bit local, even since high school. However, there came a point in time when I realized that how I was doing things was wrong. And not to pat myself on the back, but there are some people who never learned that lesson. There are some people who will go their entire lives without growing up, without maturing. I mean, I don't want to get political, but I don't care. Look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump is in his late 70s, and he will still say everything he thinks. And he got rewarded for it all the way into the White House. I'm not saying people should censor themselves. I believe in free speech. However, I am now acutely aware of the power of words. And I believe that you can express yourself in a way that's not cruel or nasty or mean or purposefully hurtful, which is what I used to do. I fully own it. When I was young, well, I was still a grown man. Okay. I can't even, I'm not trying to excuse it on youth. I was in my late 20s and I did not care if my words were hurtful. All I cared about was me, and the attention that I was getting and the views and the this and the that. And I look back at that period of time now with deep shame, remorse, regret, and gratitude that I'm not that person anymore. But I also know that maybe even the majority of your audience still sees me as that old person. It's like that expression, a first impression is a lasting impression. And hopefully your followers can see me as a cautionary tale. Things that you say today on social media could stay with you for the rest of your life. Because the internet is forever. People will always be pulling up receipts from my past. It doesn't matter that it was 15 years ago or 13 years ago.
Yeah. You know what? But I respect that. I respect the fact that you can say, you know what? I regret it. I apologize. And we can't live in the past. We could just say, you know what? That's not who I am today. And that does not define who I'm going to be tomorrow. So I think that's great. But do you think it has to do like your change? Does it have to do with your children, having children, or it was just something that I don't know.
It started before children. I noticed a change within me when I began my journey to be a healthier person. If people remember Perez Hilton from 2007, I was so unhealthy. And that's how I like to talk about it. I don't like to say fat. I was fat, but it's more than just weight. It's more than just weight. I was unhealthy and it was bringing me down. And when I began on this journey to being a healthier person, I became a happier person. And I noticed that my thoughts changed. I was thinking clearer and differently, but I was afraid to make a change. I was paralyzed by fear because at that point I had been Perez for a long time and things were working well for me. But eventually there came a point when the universe smacked me upside the head. Specifically, it was a long time ago now. In the fall of 2010, there was this rash of gay teenagers that were dying by suicide. And this journalist named Dan Savage created this campaign called It Gets Better. It was very simple. It was encouraging older people to make videos directly speaking to younger people. And I found out about it the very same day he launched this campaign. I made an It Gets Better video, and the response that I got, it changed me forever because I thought, wow, in this moment of darkness, I'm doing something to spread light. But people did not see it that way. They said, how dare you? How dare you make an It Gets Better video? You're a hypocrite. You're a bully. You're a part of the problem. And it was at that moment that I said, okay, I have to make a change and I have to stop all of the BS lies that I was telling myself. Things like, oh, it's just a character. If people don't like what I'm saying, it doesn't matter because it's not the real me. But no, it was the real me. I was just feeding my brain these lies. And, I was saying things like, well, if people don't like it, they should just ignore me. But it's not as simple as that. Like, you might be a perfect person to talk on this, like you might ignore people talking smack about you, but then a friend might innocently say, oh my God, I can't believe that person said that about you. Or they might bring it to your attention thinking they're doing you a favor. So I decided to make a change. And it's not like I reinvented the wheel. I just put new rims on it.
Nice. I like that. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us, for being honest and transparent. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, we can talk about, what we're here to talk about. Okay. Because I thought you were the perfect person. I like to talk about sex. I'm that friend that I'm always asking people questions. Especially my gay friends. And you're a gay male and you're open about it. So I was like, I want to have him on, and I know he'll be fun, and I know he'll be honest. Because I have a lot of questions, okay?
Well, let me ask you some questions before you start asking your questions. So I'm curious, it's been many years now since you started doing work in television, and you first came out on the scene with reality TV. Do you think if you had not done reality television, that the Spanish language media, which can be very vicious, do you think that they would have covered you differently?
That's a very freaking good question. I think so. I do think so. I don't regret doing the reality. That was like my first step into like my own career.
Yeah.
But because I exposed so much of my personal life, whenever I wanted to keep some to myself, it was just why? Why now? And it's still kind of like that. I did 10 years of reality TV and I don't regret it. But times were obviously different. It was the thing back then. But they have been a little bit more harsh, I guess, a little bit harder on me. And I think it might have to do with that, for sure. I've thought about it, which is why now, even if they offer me, I'm just like, I think about it a lot before I would bring my siblings and I to do something like that again. Okay, well, now my questions. All right.
Okay.
So as you know, in our Latin culture, and this is why I wanted a podcast, I can talk about anything and everything. I grew up in a household where you didn't talk about sex, about having your period, about being gay. It was just like, no. You know what I mean? My family was very traditional, very religious.
Same.
Yeah, right? So I just started like, as I got older in school is when I learned about sex and all this stuff. It was my friends and what they were talking about. And it's not until like I was in, I don't know, my late 20s, I would say, that I was introduced to a vibrator. And I love them. I had a boyfriend that was not okay with me having a vibrator. And it was like, no, that's my competition sort of thing. Now that I'm 37 and I want to try different things, I have a man younger than me, 7 years younger, and he's totally fine with it. He's like, let's bring it in. Like, let's have fun, And it's been amazing, and I can't really talk to, some of my friends. I'm that friend that would tell you, here's a vibrator for Christmas or your birthday. Sit on this instead of strain your penis. I'm that friend. I'm like, have safe sex. But my grandma was like, I would tell her, I'm like, Grandma, you haven't had sex for so long. This is years ago. I'm like, you haven't had sex for so long. No quieres un vibrador. And she's like, estás loca, sos del diablo. You're not supposed to masturbate. And I'm just like, what? Isn't that safer than just like having sex with like randoms?
Absolutely. And it's quicker too.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I don't know about straight people, but most gay men, they use the apps to hook up. And I just don't have the time or the desire for that. Like I would just rather take care of business myself, and I'm done much quicker than it would take me to like try to find somebody and meet up with them and all of that. But I'm curious though. I love that you love your toys.
Yes.
I would guess that straight men would not really be into toys for themselves. But here's my question. I'm all but certain that straight men, a lot of them, if not most, love porn. So are you okay with your younger boyfriend watching a lot of porn and masturbating without you?
I'm going to be real with you right now. Before, the younger me was like, no, I was jealous. I was immature. It was just like ridiculous. But now I wouldn't mind because I feel like it would give me a little bit of a break. Not that I don't want to have sex with him. Obviously I do. But sometimes I'm just busy and it's just like, it's another kind of chore. You know what I mean? So now I'm like, I ask him, do you watch porn? He says no, that he doesn't even like to jack off or anything. Like that's not his thing. Now I'd be fine with it. And I'd be like, you know what? Just do your thing. You know, I, like him and we haven't gotten to that point. We've been dating for a year and a half, like watching porn together, but I want to. And with my mom was very, very open. You know, we'd be leaving the house on a date or with some friends. She's like, okay, well, make sure you cover it. Make sure you wear a condom. Or like, she was very like that. A little later, you know, because in the beginning, she didn't really teach me much about sex or anything like that until she got older. And then she met this guy that was like the love of her life, her soulmate. And she just said that she became a woman at like 30 something years old. She had her first orgasm. So we started talking about it. I was older, you know what I mean? So we had these conversations.
Wait, so your mom told you, was telling you about her first orgasm?
Oh, she did. She told us all.
Have you because you're so well known, like, well, first of all, is your current boyfriend Latino or not?
He is. He's half Mexican and half Filipino.
Have you found, like, over the last decade or so that you have to be very cautious about dating because guys are just trying to use you?
Yes. In the beginning, when I start dating someone, I'm still a little bit hesitant, a little worried, you know? But I think with Emilio, my current boyfriend, he's just very like transparent and just very like, you could tell right away. He's so different. But I have had guys that have used me and have even called the paparazzi on us.
Oh,
and that
God.
just sucks. Yeah. It's like you think that they're there for the right reasons and then you just realize, and I was dumb to just ignore it for a while. But I learned my fucking lesson, let me tell you. I learned it.
So you've been dating a year and a half. I would say the honeymoon phase is over, but you're still excited about him. And at this point in your relationship, how often are you having sex?
You know what?
Do you live together?
We do live together now.
Okay.
We do live together and we have sex. It all just depends. At least 3 times a week.
Three times a week? That's a good amount of time.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, we have our little like thing, you know, our night schedule, and it just happens. And he knows when I'm trying to get frisky, I'll put something sexy on and I just like pretend like I'm in my little like baggy PJs and then I pull them off and there's something nice down there, you know? So he's young. I gotta freaking keep up.
Here's a confession of mine that might shock you. I actually have not had sex since 2016. I have not gotten naked with anybody.
Perez, no way.
Way.
Okay, and why?
Well, I'll explain why. So my son was my first child to be born. He was born in 2013. And after he was born, I decided I wanted to go to New York City for a while because I love New York and I went to college there. And I said to myself, this is my last opportunity to enjoy New York because after this, I have to really settle down. So I went and we were there for 2.5 years. And I went through a huge slut phase using all of those apps, and I got it out of my system. And it was really easy to meet guys in New York because you don't need a car. You can take the subway and you can be very spontaneous and very quick. Then I moved back to LA and it was really hard to even date, like using the same websites and the same apps. It was just very challenging. And then I realized I don't need to. I mean, I'm open to it. I would like to. I'm not against it. I enjoy sex, but something changed where I didn't want to chase it that much.
Yeah.
And I love sex, but I want it to be easy.
I feel you. Well, things have changed so much, you know, and then you're a personality yourself. You're a celebrity, like, and you just feel like, are these people, these men coming into my life because they, you know what I mean? You just like,
I don't think about that. I think the opposite, actually. I think anybody who messages me, it wants to embarrass me. So that's another reason why I kind of stopped doing that. I thought, they're just chatting with me to try to, lead me on, so that they can screen grab our conversation and then leak it. And that's another reason why I'd rather just be more old school and meet somebody at the gym, at my kid's school, out at a concert, sitting next to them on a plane, people still do meet other people that way. How did you meet your boyfriend?
At a party. I was having a birthday party for a friend of mine, for Becky G, actually. They're like cousins. They grew up together.
Aww.
And he was one of the guests. And I had seen him before. We did a photo shoot together, but we had like never exchanged numbers or anything. And that day we were just drinking, having a good time. And I'm glad I met him that way and not through someone that was sliding through my DMs. You know what I mean? I'm more traditional in that way as well. I tried the dating apps. That shit like scared the hell out of me. And I'm like, you know what? It's just not for me. And these blind dates, I'd rather just, like you said, I don't know, at a library. Are there any libraries anywhere? Anyways, I'm saying a library because I would like a guy that reads, he reads, by the way. But I get it. I get exactly what you're saying. Like the whole screen, you got to be so careful with everything that you do now because they will just take a quick screenshot and try to screw you over. So
on the same token, like I don't even care if they do. Like I kind of I expect that. So I'm prepared for the worst. And it's not even that bad. I've been doing what I do now for 18 years. I would rather be embarrassed publicly than ignored. Like I'd rather have that humiliating attention than no attention. I keep it real honest.
That's what I love about you. You're honest. Have you slept with women before?
No, never.
No, you've never?
I've never had any interest, no desire. Oh my God. Everybody's going to be talking about this episode. I'm blushing already. Jeez Louise.
Oh my God.
So you have siblings. Do you talk about these things with your siblings?
Oh, no. My siblings and I are very, very close, like really close, like sometimes too close. I mean, I don't know if I've ever shared this before, but we're just very open. My mom was that way with us. And so I'm like that with them as well. My brother, who's 31 years old, he hasn't done it in a long time. But when we lived together way back, like, I don't know, I must have been in my early 20s. I'd be taking a shower and he'd walk in. He's like, sister, I'm literally naked showering. I'm like, what's up? He'd be like, I don't know, this bitch. Like he was telling me just whatever it may be. We're very open. We were just on a trip. I took them out for my brother's birthday. And we were talking about it. He's like, oh, I'm like, did you get any birthday sex? He's like, oh yeah, she gave it to me real good. And she just, she sucked it really nice. I'm like, that's awesome, brother, at the breakfast table. So we are very, very, very open.
I don't have that. I think, well, you're probably closer in age. Well, no, you're around the same. My sister is 6.5 years younger. So we never had that kind of relationship.
Do you feel like with your children, do you talk to them or? I don't, because they're fairly young, but do you talk to them about their parts and like penis and vagina? Like,
oh yeah, using clinical words, yeah, and saying things like, nobody can touch you. Right. Only the doctor, when the doctor asks for permission, and not even anybody, your siblings, especially, nobody can, we have those kinds of discussions, but my oldest is only 9 years old and I think it's a little young to have more, but I'm a single gay dad and I had my children through surrogacy. So I've talked about that process with them and how they came to be. And I believe in being honest, which my mother doesn't always agree with everything I do. She's like, you don't need to be honest with children. They're children. So yeah, I believe in being honest and age appropriate as well.
Right.
Because they're only going to understand so much. And like, I like that my kids are a little bit sheltered. Like I want my kids to remain kids. Like my kids don't have cell phones. Like there's some 9-year-olds that have cell phones. And if that's your family and I understand it. Some people might have a kid that has to go between a mom's house and a dad's house, and a phone is an important tool that the kid needs. My kids don't need phones for me, and they don't have it, but I will be honest and educating my children. But when they're in their 20s, I don't need them to be telling me about if they orgasmed or not. No.
You're like, no, you're like...
But if they talk about it with each other, that's great. I want them to talk about it with each other. They don't need to talk about it with me, though.
With you. Okay. I feel you. But I totally get that. I was watching, I think, the View the other day, and they were talking about, I don't remember who she was, but she was talking about, yes, I speak to my children about their penis and their vagina, and that, like what you said, no one should touch you there. And I think those conversations early on,
yes,
for me are very important because of what happened to me. I was sexually abused by my dad. And my mom, she was young when she had me. She was 15. So she was a kid raising a kid, But now when she got older, she did tell me, she's like, I wish I would have talked to you about that because it would have prevented so many things. It happens too often. And I think if they're aware of their body parts and their privacy, I think that is something important.
Going back to something you said earlier, like you, I was much younger when my dad passed away. It was the summer between freshman and sophomore year of high school. And not only did my Latino Cuban family not talk about this or talk about that, but they also didn't believe in therapy. Oh, that's for gringos. We don't do therapy. You don't go to therapy. We didn't do therapy. Yeah. But I wish that I was in therapy back then. I'm in therapy now, and I find it so helpful. So I was going to ask, you've been through so much in your life, and just from speaking to you now, you seem very adjusted and happy, and I don't know, but maybe like healed, or healing is a constant work in progress. But how did you get to that point of where you are at now of healing yourself?
For sure, therapy. I've been in therapy since I was 12. The doctor that examined me when all this came out to light, he suggested, and again, my family was very like, well, what's therapy? All you need is God. All you need to do is pray. And yes, you do need that. I feel like you need to have your relationship, your faith. But therapy has helped me so much, and like you said, it is a taboo and it's something that I talk about on my podcast and I share, and I'm a huge advocate for it because it's helped me and my faith, and having such a strong mother that no matter what happened, she never allowed me to feel sorry for myself. This happened, you got to pick up and then, dust yourself off and keep walking. And I always say that because I have that in the back of my mind of, we got to keep going. We got to be strong. It's been that. And knowing the responsibility that I have, having the platform that God has given me to share and to spread light and to be an example of, yes, I've been through this, but that does not define who I am today. I mean, I'm still in therapy. I do it every week because it just helps me. I need the mentorship.
I love it. I mean, I have so much empathy and compassion because when you have trauma that happens like what you experienced, or even with me losing a parent at a very young age, you can respond one of two ways. You can respond how you did and how I did, or you can respond by choosing a path of destruction, whether that be drugs or alcohol or extreme promiscuity. But what's fascinating is I didn't really get into therapy until in my 40s. And it wasn't until the last couple of years that I realized, wow, I've been carrying all this baggage from when I was a teenager that I never really addressed because I didn't have the tools or the mental and emotional maturity to process all of these things, like my dad dying and my grandfather died the same week. That was pretty earth-shattering. Yeah, my grandfather lived with us as well. My mom's dad and then her husband both died 7 days apart. And my dad was unexpected. He had an aneurysm. And it's interesting because you had a really close and special relationship with your mother because you were close in age. And I have a very close and special relationship with my mother as well, because in a way I had to become at an early age the parent. And I had to start financially supporting my mother. And she lives with me. I love her. And I say this with love. In many ways, my mother is an inspiration for me in how I don't want to parent. So I try to correct how I was brought up and make sure that I'm doing things differently for my kids. For example, and you probably could relate to this too. I do have also compassion and grace and understanding from my mom, knowing that she did her best. She did her best given her upbringing and what she knew. But I always struggled with my weight from youth to adulthood as well. And I remember there was a period where my mom decided we're going to be healthy. So her idea of being healthy was having us eat iceberg lettuce with tomatoes. And the salad dressing was mayonnaise. Iceberg lettuce with tomatoes and mayonnaise. But then,
oh my goodness,
there's some things that when I was younger, I used to fight my mom on. Actually, I'll ask you this. This is the best thing that my mother told me growing up, which I never believed. And maybe you might think this is cynical, but I never really believed or got or understood until recently. Because for me, I always was a big proponent of friendship. And I love having friends. I love friendship. But my mom said, friends will come and friends will go. But the most important thing in life is family. And I'm like, Mom, that's so cynical. You can have friends that are like family. And she's like, nope, it's not true. No, family is family and friends are friends. And and I do believe that now.
It's probably like that, blood is thicker than water. And for me, I feel like I consider my family my siblings. To me, it's us. And I feel that there are certain friends, like you can make your own family, like people that you meet or you know what I mean? And for me, that's my family. For a long time, I had an episode on this called toxic loyalty, that in our culture, we're like, pero es tu mamá, but that's your dad, but that's your cousin. It doesn't matter. That's your family. But I'm like, but wrong is wrong. If they're not making me feel good and they're making me more sad than happy, then I'd rather, and I learned this through therapy, where it's okay to love people from afar. It takes a long time to understand that because I was taught, in a way, toxic loyalty my whole life. And now I'm like, okay, I want it to be every relationship. It doesn't matter who it is, for it to be reciprocated, for me to give and they give as much as I do, sort of thing. It took me a long time.
But that's not realistic.
What is not realistic?
Like even my sister, for example, I hope she doesn't listen. Oh my God. With my sister, I feel like I'm always the one taking the initiative. Like, hey, let's do this with the kids, or let's do this, or let's do that. And it would be nice if she's the one saying, hey, you want to come over or whatever? But it's okay if it's not 50-50. She's my sister.
Right.
And I'm still going to continue to be the one making the bigger effort. And I'm the older sibling, you know?
Yeah. As older siblings, it's just going to always have to be that way, to be honest. It's like, I've learned that. I'm like, and I'm okay with it. As long as you motherfuckers call me back and text me back, I'm good. Anyways, thank you. Thank you for sharing everything, for being so open, for your questions to me. I loved having you on the podcast. I hope this is not the first and the last time. Do you want to share your social so people follow you? A lot of people do, but still.
Well, the number one thing I'll say is people who listen and enjoy podcasts usually check out and enjoy more than one. So check out mine, the Perez Hilton podcast with Chris Booker. You can hear it at perezpodcast.com. That's perezpodcast.com. And that's it. I'm everywhere. And I'm just so grateful to have had this time together with you.
Oh,
and that I'm still here. It's like, it's crazy that I started life as Perez in 2004, really before there was social media. Like I was an influencer before that word even existed. And while I'm not an it girl anymore, I'm still here and I am an icon, and icons are forever.
Yes, I love that. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. And as you guys know, I always share my motivational quote right before we end. Here's the quote for you guys. When things change inside you, things change around you. I'll tell you, I'm living proof of that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation with Perez Hilton. Te quiero mucho. Thank you for being on. Los quiero a todos. Les doy un besito. And I will catch you on the next episode of Chiquis and Chill. Besitos a todos. Do you need advice on love, relationships, health, y más? I'm so excited to share with you that my Chiquis and Chill podcast will have an extra episode drop each week. I'll be answering all your questions. Just leave me a voice message con todas tus preguntas y yo te las voy a contestar personalmente. All you have to do is go to speakpipe.com/Chiquis and Chill podcast and record your questions. I can't wait to hear from you. This is a production of iHeartRadio and the My Cultura Podcast Network. Follow us on Instagram at My Cultura Podcast and follow me, Chiquis, that's CHIQUIS. For more podcasts from iHeart, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.